Hello, you guys. This is Micah from edeneyetarot. I am here today to talk to you a little bit about a spread that I did. I felt inspired to do a collective reading for Taurus season, and so this is what that video is. And so it doesn't matter what sign you are, this is just for everybody. I just wanted to kind of do a collective reading, starting off Taurus season and kicking it off on the right foot. Especially since we have eclipses coming. And, this is a time where we can see a lot of change happening, a lot of releasing, a lot of, finding new direction, all of that. And so I wanted to pull out the tarot cards as well as an oracle card just to kind of give you a little guidance about the general energy of Taurus season. So I think I'm going to actually start out with the guidance card. So, or what I consider as the guidance card, as far as like tarot versus oracle, I like to use both in my practice. But I look at the oracle card as more a card that is going to be like, the main entree, the general thing, or the general energy, and therefore it's not as intense. And like the tarot is going to be like more the ingredients that go into the main entree. And we get like actual details, and that's where things can kind of heat up. And so I like to use oracle cards as guidance. And so we have the Aquarius card, which is I know. Aquarius for Taurus season, Saturn is actually in Aquarius, of course. And so we can see a lot of change happening. Aquarius is a sign that's all about like progression. And in particular, it's the idealization of the future. It's very future oriented. It's the visionary. It, really pulls on the power of community and friendship. And I think another thing we can think of with Aquarius is those goals and dreams that we have for the future and that vision that we have for the future. And sometimes that ideal is comparing where you're at right now versus where you want to be. And depending on your patience level, you can either get frustrated or you can, really just lean into the planning and the diligence that goes along with that. But Aquarius isn't always like this super techie or super like, before it's time kind of energy. Mostly it's just like, if it were a perfect world, like, and I guess this is also subjective, if it were a perfect world, this would be my future. And that's not where I'm at right now. So I'm going to make changes to be able to get there. And so we can see a lot of, making those dreams real when we have Taurus and like, trying to figure out what kind of resources do we have, not just, on an external level or in our community, but from an internal level as well. What kind of energy do we have? Are we, allowing ourselves to kind of have time for ourselves to be able to really be able to move forward to our dreams? Are we taking time to kind of do the self-care thing, or are we just kind of running like all the time, because we're really focused on getting to that goal, maybe even during like a certain timeline or, a time crunch, because Aquarius is, of course, traditionally ruled by Saturn, the god of time. And so we can say maybe like some pressure to get things done with Aquarius. We could also be seeing with Aquarius card coming up for Taurus season, maybe some like a friction coming up, like with friendships, maybe even like releasing some friendships or relationships, releasing certain duties or projects that, maybe you don't have time for anymore. But I say this in particular to friendships because I also think of, resources when we're talking to friends, when we're talking about friendships as well. It can be a time where you're realizing that the values that you have and the values that friends have, or the values that a community is holding, aren't the same, and they don't align anymore to that vision that you have for yourself. And so therefore you need to take a step back or just completely sever the line completely. With Taurus, there is not Taurus. There is with Aquarius, there is a sense of rebellion and wanting to change things up. Where Taurus is very much like it likes to stay in its comfort zone. It's that earthy energy. It's Venus, and so it's really saying like, why rock the boat? But Aquarius is an air sign, a fixed air sign ruled by Saturn and Uranus, and so it's like let's rock the boat. Let's change things up a little bit, and that square can cause a lot of frustration because there can be a lot of fear around changing things and fear around, that maybe even um, what's the word? Not isolation, but being singled out because you're doing something different. You're doing something very different from the community. And in that does come like a certain level of like being elevated and being on display, but on the other end, you're very much separated from that whole like humanity part. That's like literally part of the myth of Aquarius as a zodiac sign is I forget his name, but like the young man that Zeus, took from Earth and brought to be his cupbearer. The plus side was he had this divine blessing and this divine favor, and he was special to Zeus. But on the other hand, he was separated from humanity. And he was isolated from that. And so that there was this detached view of humanity that was no longer his world. And so he saw things very differently, and he wasn't able to really connect on that same level as everybody anymore. And so we can see maybe like feeling, like you're on the outs with people, like you don't connect with certain people anymore, and change happening that way. Maybe also changing your values because of that, or changing how you make money, how you work, what you're working towards can really be another big thing. Lots of rebellion, possibly lots of conflict can come up as well as like an offshoot of like rebellion too. We can see, just a lot of sudden happenings or, sudden events. I'm thinking of like the role that Uranus plays in the sign of Aquarius and how that can create like natural disasters, but it can also really be talking about where is your network? Where's your tribe? And so we can see a lot of stuff happening and unfolding in media, social media, really networking with people and getting out there and being more social with people. It can be a time where, things can maybe seem like you're really being tested on what do you value? Are you going to stay true to those things? All of that. But I would say that whatever your purpose is, hold true to that and find ways that you can express that in different ways. It's okay to keep the same purpose if you want, but make sure that your purpose is broad enough. And some would argue that if your purpose isn't broad, then it's not really a purpose, it's more of a goal. But that's neither here nor there. But I do think that like when you phrase a purpose in a way that can be very versatile, I think you get the best parts of Aquarius. Because you're able to, be of service to more people. Aquarius is all about what's best for everybody, what's best for the collective. And so the purpose can be expressed differently, even if you have a very constant purpose. And I think that's fine. That's like the middle ground is like finding versatility in a common purpose or common goal even. But yeah, so we could even see like maybe like some thunderstorms, with Uranus, sudden inspiration, bursts of brilliance, maybe being more innovative, more creative in that way as well. We can see all that coming up in Taurus season, especially the creativity. Let's start with the major arcana because we have quite a few. We're going to start with the moon card. So the moon card is, of course, Pisces' card, and we have quite the lineup of planets and asteroids in Pisces. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and check out my video on Juno and Pisces. That is a video that I really enjoyed putting together for you guys, so go ahead and check that out after this one. But we have the Moon card. The Moon card is a card that's really drawing on the unknown. It can be scary going to the unknown. And I think that's also something with the reason why Aquarius came up as well. Aquarius is okay with kind of like diving into I guess like the possible unknown. It just wants to shake things up. It enjoys the change of things. Usually as long as it fits the ideal, but I would argue what happens when it doesn't. And the Moon card is really saying to trust the process. It is saying that things are blooming, much like the Datura flower, the moon flowers that are blooming here on this card as well. It's like really trust the process. Things pop up. I will never forget my first experience with moonflowers because they just literally they just kind of show up like. They can almost be a little bit scary because and if anyone has ever like meditated or like used flower essences from Datura, if you are doing that, make sure that you have a trusted herbalist that is experienced in making making poisonous flower essences. If you get the opportunity to do that, totally do it. But Moonflower in particular, she is. I haven't personally, done a Datura flower essence, but I did have a flower essence of foxglove, and that was its own experience. Like I'm telling you guys, if you ever get to meditate with poisonous plants, do it. But back to the actual thing. But Moonflower, she's very beautiful, very alluring. She has this beautiful scent. She's a very beautiful flower, but she gets down and dirty. Like she gets very intense very quickly. When we see Moonflower on this card, I think it really personifies the Moon card very well. It's about the things that go bump in the night, but not things that are actually real. It's more talking about what's going on up here. What kind of fears are you harboring that you haven't addressed yet? The Moon card is really asking you to bring those to the surface, trust the process, and be willing to face those things so that you can fully tune into the intuitive messages that are being sent to you, that are being really making themselves apparent. It's really amping up the psychic ability as well as asking you to pay attention to dreams. It's really connecting the physical experience with the psychic experience as well. Because when things are dark, that's when we see Moonflower and when we see the moon, of course. This could also be like the eclipses that are happening in Taurus season. It's a lot of change, as well as the moon is like a very communal luminary. I know I jumped around a little bit just there, but the moon is about change and women as well as like community. And it can also be about nurturing. And we were talking a little bit earlier about what kind of reserves do you have like outside, externally and internally? Are you listening to that inner voice when you need time to just kind of rest? Are you getting enough sleep? Is another question. You can't burn the candle at both ends. And, it's saying that the things that you come up against are not just going to be external. A lot of the work that's going to pay off in an external way is going to come from the inside. And don't be afraid of change. Approach it with curiosity, approach it with wonder, open up to it, just like this Moonflower, right? I also say that because with, amping up the intuitive side or the intuitive senses, we also have the High Priestess. The High Priestess is a card that's really leaning into the intuitive messages that you're getting, paying attention to your dreams again. It can also be like sudden change with the moon also coming up. Sudden changes. It's, whenever I think of the High Priestess, I think of like someone that's not of this world. So this could be a very spiritual woman, a spiritual teacher, or just like a spiritual guru that comes up that really helps to guide your path, to guide your way. But it can also just be talking about maybe getting more in touch with those intuitive messages through meditation, through prayer, through yoga, through some sort of reflective period where maybe you take some time for yourself to really look at what's going on inside, rather than just, rushing out to just go do. But it's really saying like, you need to kind of tone down the external noise so that you can turn up the internal and really be able to understand. And so that you can make the appropriate changes on an external level outwardly. That all starts inward, and it all starts on the inside. We are also we have the, uh, actually, we'll go with this one. So we have the Death card coming up. So not surprising, this is Scorpio's card. We have the North Node, or not the North Node, the South Node in Scorpio. So we're seeing themes of sacrifice, releasing, letting things go, even if it's hard. And this only, tells me even more. There's going to be quite a bit of like bringing up old habits, especially toxic habits, old fears and traumas, and just kind of like things that maybe we don't want to talk about. We need to address those things. The Death card is also about sacrifice. And it's saying if you want the dream to happen, what are you willing to give up? You can't have everything. And so you need to make some sort of definitive choice to let go of this, let go of that, so that you can get to the ultimate goal. It is very much a card that's saying, keep your eye on the prize and look at the big picture, at least in my mind, and don't be afraid to let things just kind of fall away from you. The things that are falling away from you at this time are meant to fall away. I'm not surprising with eclipses at all, but I just wanted to mention that as well. We also have the Magician. This is saying you have all the tools literally inside you, and all around you. We were talking about community with the Aquarius card. And so really pull on that social network. Even this card has like, all kinds of social network logos on it. But it's like, really utilize who do you know. Sometimes the resource isn't what you have. It's like, who do you know? And also what you know. Aquarius is knowledge as well, and the mind and the brain, and how all that is its own network. And so it's saying like, be smart, put things together. If you want to make a dream happen, you can do it, but you have to be willing to put the puzzle together, be willing to look at things from a different angle, perhaps, and to be versatile, to, be clever, to be social, to get out there. Because I also really see this as like a very creative card, and really being able to see the connectiveness of everything. And, tapping into that intuition, being ready to kind of like internalize that, reflect, think through it, change, and then from that, you manifest this beautiful, tangible dream that you have, but you have to be willing to do the hard work that comes with it. It's not like the energy from spirit just like goes straight through you and then there's the dream, right? You have to, you like swallow the divine inspiration or divine energy. And then you kind of have to let it gestate a little bit, and you have to like sit with it. And then once this is such a gross like metaphor, but like when you have to go poop, like maybe like the next day, because it's like sat and it's digested, then you can like actually make the thing. But And I'm sorry, that was such a gross like metaphor, but it's what I came up with in the moment, and I was like, yes. But yeah, like shitting out rainbows, man. Like, and I think that's like a lot of people are going to be doing, and I think things will turn out much better than you expect them to, especially if you can be brave enough to make those changes, possibly even make some very calculated risks, um, and just kind of step out on faith. We have to remember that, of course, that first eclipse in Taurus is conjunct Uranus, and so it's about taking sudden risk. Really, when I think of Uranus, I think of the Fool card, which is saying, don't be reckless, but take common sense with you, but also be willing to trust the universe, be willing to have almost a child's mind and heart when it comes to just being completely open and trusting of the universe. Speaking of the universe, we have the World card, which is old cycles dying, new ones beginning. Possible travel can be coming up when we're talking about the World card as well. But I think it's literally your world is changing because you're changing. I think this could also be like not just like, your circumstances changing. It's like people want to support you. And I think you'll have a lot of people kind of coming in from different backgrounds to kind of help you change up perspective, change different things in your life, teach you new things. And you're really, really starting a whole new cycle in your life. The person that you were before this is going to be someone very different than who you are becoming. This isn't going to be with, all easy peasy. We do have the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands can really be about planning, preparation, as far as like advice goes, because it's, being very excited and, ready for what's happening because you've already, really built into what you have now and you're ready to take the next step. And I think that is fantastic. But we have to remember it is a Wands card. And so it's a lot about passion. And sometimes it doesn't, there isn't a lot of structure with that. It's great to have a lot of excitement, a lot of, energy in a situation, and just want to start things. But we have to remember this is the Mars and Aries card. And Mars and Aries as a planetary placement, likes to start things, but it's not so great at finishing things. And that's why I say that planning and prioritization are key, because if you start a whole bunch of, different things, that's fine. But when they're all started, how do you finish them? By looking into each one and deciding which one needs to be done first and which one needs to be finished first. And those, I think, can really give you the biggest wins doing it that way, prioritizing and the following through. And that might take, that's definitely going to take like some sort of internal perseverance that really, really comes through, especially when we have like a card like the Moon card coming up. We also have the Seven of Cups here. The Seven of Cups is a card that I think is really talking about. I love that there are camels on this deck because it's really saying that you have all of what you need actually inside you. But we can also see, the Seven of Cups really talking about don't let fear get the best of you, because a lot of times with Venus being in Scorpio, which is the representation of this card, a lot of times we can see Venus being in a Mars ruled sign, it's a bit difficult. It can really pull on like, I need to have it all. And, or I need to like maybe be more opportunistic and grab every opportunity that I can have. But that's not getting greedy. Essentially, is not how you want to go about this. You want to take the time to look at every option one by one, just like we were talking about in the Two of Wands. You want to take the time to look at every option and decide which one is, the best for you, which one resonates with you the best, and look at it carefully, look at it deeply. It's looking not just at what is there, but also like what's in between the lines as well with the Seven of Cups. Not everything that glitters is gold. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're picking up each option, rubbing it off a little, rubbing it off a little bit and like making sure that it's not like gold paint and it's actually gold, right? Lastly, but definitely not least, we have the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles is saying that with all of that diligence, with all that careful planning and attention to detail, you really come out with something that is amazing. It's, you know, it's quality. It is something that you really get to reap those rewards. And you have that celebration. It took some sacrifice, but you got exactly where you wanted to go and possibly even more. And there's also a need to make sure that do definitely maintain and protect what you have. But with the Nine of Pentacles, it can also be just continuing that careful planning, continuing that careful nurture and love for the service that you're doing or for the actual work that you're doing. And so that is the collective reading for Taurus. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this reading, go ahead and check out my social media and the and my links down in the description to book a reading with me. Other than that, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.